The following program is brought to you by our Patreon supporters. You can request podcast topics, enjoy exclusive RPG and video content, and more. Even just $1 a month gets you gameplay episodes a week early and makes you officially cool. Just like our Trash Elite, a guy from Ohio, and Rob, DG, Kitty Holbrook, Distru City KTL, Drake Starstorm, Passion Killer 711, and Thomas Austin Jr. It is I, Eric J. Chucky. Greetings and salutations. I said that out of order. Joined as always by the boy.
Hey!
This is the Two Nerds Podcast, and today we're dealing with my latest punishment movie because I'm not allowed to win anything.
You're allowed to win. You simply must lock in and do so.
I'm going to punch you.
That's, you know what, totally fair.
Before we get into that, we do have the traditional What's Crumpin'. We'll try to keep it brief because I feel like we can fill half an hour on this stupid movie. Spoiler alert, we thought the movie was stupid. What has been crumping with you, my ally?
A friend of mine, very generous, ridiculous friend of mine, bought me a copy of Night Rain. I played it. It was really good. I want to buy a copy of Night Rain because I'm not a big fan of roguelites. But turns out, if you're playing a video game with friends, that frustration doesn't show up.
I think you're a bigger fan of roguelikes than you have led yourself to believe, but I think much like myself, you are very picky about your roguelikes. They need to be, and this is a technical term, so I'm sorry if it confuses anybody out there in our audience, good.
Well, you know, you might be right about that, but
for a lot of folks, that it just being a roguelike in the first place is enough.
And also good, as we've discovered, is highly subjective.
Boy fucking howdy. I also played Night Rain. It's not a game that deserves a full write-up. It's better than I thought it was. I had come into exactly the price of money that Night Rain is, and I've been so curious about it that I was contemplating buying it on my own, and a mysterious benefactor purchased a copy for me. It was a good time, but I feel like I did something else this week. I don't remember what. We'll maybe talk about it next time.
Rivals and standard stuff.
Yeah, I feel like there was one other new thing. And I feel like it was somewhat important to me, but...
Well, then we can talk about it in the next crumble.
Yeah, we will. So there's a lot to say about this movie. Why don't you tell the good people why we arrived at The Departed?
So, for those of you who only watch the podcast, and we know there's some of you, and we like you too, just to be clear. One of the series we do, probably the most popular series in the history of this channel, overall, I would say.
Is Violent
Profiles. Second is us playing the video game Journey of Wrestling. That eventually it evolved into us doing a versus series where we were fighting each other. And the loser of those contests had to, so on and so forth. It evolved into having to watch a movie of the others choosing a movie presumably we would not enjoy. That eventually gave way to us having that same criteria on a podcast you may have listened to if you only listen to the podcast, which is The Gauntlet. It might bounce around in the future. We like The Gauntlet so far, but we also just like the idea of this, punishment challenge thing. That's where that currently resides.
We're not as much of the competitive bro dunderheads as most people our age with the equipment we possess, but it is nice every now and then to
put a little something, have some skin in the game, as it were. I won the most recent of these challenges,
and the one before that,
and when we started doing these challenges with this particular movie stakes, I decided that White Raven could have his pick of 3 movies with the wonderful actor Mark Wahlberg in them, that has since come to be known as the Funky Bunch. He worked his way through all the other options first, But we did eventually get to The Departed. Raven, why don't you tell the people why we watched Ted and The Happening before this movie?
I thought they would be better.
And were they?
The Happening definitely was. Ted, I don't know.
So we're going to be the purveyors of, this is a very, very old movie, really, at this point. But
beloved.
But a hot take in that, to different degrees, neither of us believe this movie is deserving of the praise it has been loaded with.
No.
And we, the people who really heaped gigantic praise on a Minecraft movie, would like to lock in our place as Philistines bereft of taste. I'm comfortable there. This is the trash pile. We belong here. If you don't, that's okay.
I don't know what y'all are smoking. I like movies that are good. I like movies in this genre. It's not my favorite genre, but I do like movies in this genre. Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch are two movies that are in this genre, and I thought they were really cool. I've seen a bunch of suspense thrillers in my time that really impressed me. Michael Douglas's The Game. Very good movie. Very suspenseful, very thrilling. I've seen a Martin Scorsese film that I really enjoyed in Gangs of New York.
I think Gangs of New York might be an all-time great movie.
It's a spectacular film.
This movie's insane.
It's not like I'm just like predisposed not to like this. It's not like
we're not just haters.
Yeah. Like, I know I present a version of myself to you guys, more so on the Discord, but like, we play things up for the camera and all that, yada yada. You know how entertainment is. I expected to watch this movie and feel about it like I feel about Inglourious Bastards. What a well-made movie with some really good characters and good acting. It's not for me. That is the exact opinion I expected to have. I was dreading watching this, but only because it's 2.5 hours long.
Now, I expected him to fucking hate this movie, but I didn't expect him to be right. Guys, why does this have like fucking 4 Oscars? Why? What is going on? Was 2007, is that what, it's just like
2006, and no, my friend, it was very frustratingly not a bad year for films.
I don't understand you people sometimes. Like, I don't understand why look, there are great crime movies. There are great movies about bad men doing bad things to other bad men. This movie is the epitome of a genre White and I have long been clear that we're not actually huge fans of, which is assholes being assholes to other assholes. But even in that genre, there are great things that we both like. This is not a great movie.
No.
I am of the opinion that this movie would be, were it not for the situation in which I find myself, the reality in which I exist, would be a perfectly fine, fun movie. Just a perfectly fine, middle of the road, suspense thriller, crime drama. Great. You know what? I've watched a bunch of those. This is a pretty good one. Put it up there with like The Blitz or like The Bank Job or something like that. But I was sold Heat. I was sold The Game. I was sold an amazing thriller that was beloved by all and was held up as the epitome of cinema by Martin Scorsese, the king of cinema, parentheses, self-appointed title. And so the hype backlash it forces me to simply just not like this movie very much. I would if it were what I was sold.
That's not the case with me. I've gotten pretty good at not hyping myself over the years, and I was not looking forward to this movie because I didn't believe it was going to be my thing. So there couldn't possibly have been anything approaching the kind of hype required to, be disappointed in it. The only thing I assumed of this movie is that it was going to be a really well-made movie that wasn't for me. It wasn't even that well made. The actors, I think, were doing a pretty good job.
I agree. I would say all of the actors, at the very least, delivered competently the material which they were provided.
Yes.
Very few of them elevated it. I would say only really Jack Nicholson.
And even not that much.
No, I feel like he was given that cartoon villain on the page, but I know he made it worse. And that's complimentary. He elevated that material. Matt Damon, Leonardo DiCaprio, very talented actors. They delivered the roles they were provided. Mark Wahlberg delivers the role he was provided. Jack Nicholson elevates the material. And unfortunately, this isn't very great material, so you have to do a little bit more than that to become a really great movie.
He doesn't even elevate it that much. He takes it to the second floor.
Yeah, but it's a little. I want to acknowledge.
Sure,
it's a little.
It's valid. All right. So I will give my praises for this movie because they are few.
So it'll be quick.
Yes. I think the basic plot, the game of cat and mouse, as you put it, the good cop in a bad situation versus a bad cop in a privileged situation is a good story. They do that. That story is just fine.
Here's a problem. That's not their story, as you found out.
Yeah.
That part's good. Well, that's not anything that anyone who was involved in this movie had anything to do with. This is just a remake of what is probably a better Chinese movie.
Yeah, I might track it down at some point to watch it, but watching a movie with subtitles is difficult for me. Just my attention span sucks. But I don't know. It's got Tony Leung in it, and it's shorter, importantly.
Next piece of praise?
Next piece of praise I have... is that the soundtrack is good the first time. They picked 3 good songs.
Problem with that, they only picked those songs.
No, there was one more. That was a bad choice.
And also, they kept using the good ones until you began to hate them.
Yeah. And, I get it. This movie is full of, imagery and, subtle and not so subtle rat crawling at the end shot. Storytelling, using X and
Jack Nicholson in a glowing red room, so flanked by beautiful ladies in the most satanic imagery possible.
I think this guy might be bad. It's using imagery. It's doing a fine job with that, but these needle drops were not as connected as you like to think they were. They were not as important as you like to think they were. They did not require me to hear the same fucking song again. It wasn't...
It's a good song, Marty. Stop it. Get a different book. Read a different book, as it were. Fucking find a new song. I assure you, people from the Boston area have in fact made more than 3 songs.
Last I checked, the Stones weren't from Boston. The editing in this movie was nonsense.
That is my real complaint. The other stuff, White and I kind of softly disagree on. I don't think this movie was as bad as he does, except for the editing. The editing was fucking insane. The editing was bad. Or, more accurately, the editing was a amateurish version of what other people did better before this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I bring up Guy Ritchie, and you agreed with me. You, in fact, said it before I said it out loud when we were discussing it earlier. This movie looks like somebody saw Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and decided they wanted to make it. And they weren't very good at that. There is modern TikTok trend unpacking bags kind of editing everywhere, and the TikTok trends do it better. The amateurs with a phone app do it better than some of the heralded greatest editors in the industry. I know this was 20 years ago, but that doesn't matter as much as you might like to think it does. It really doesn't, because I know other movies that came out before then. In fact, in 2006, before this film, V for Vendetta came out.
Like, I would not be judging this movie as harshly. I would still say the editing is insane, but I wouldn't be as upset about it if it weren't coming from the person it is coming from. And if that person didn't have the reputation and social cachet that they do. If this was just some random fucking movie from the 2000s, I wouldn't be as upset at this fully crazy editing. So not everyone who watches this podcast is into pro wrestling. I'm sorry, because this won't make as much sense. But Monday Night Raw, for a long time, had an editor who was famously just fully crazy, just fully unable to hold on a single camera shot for more than 3 contiguous seconds. And there were many, many times during this movie where it felt like Kevin Dunn was behind the editing booth.
It calmed down after the first half of the movie. Ironically, the part of the film that could have used the most transitions, because a lot of time passes and we just smash cut through years, or a year, I think.
That's the thing is, I looked up the plot of the Chinese movie. It takes place over like 10 years. This movie takes place over a much shorter time frame, I think.
Well, technically it starts very beginning of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I mean like the cat and mouse game.
Oh, okay.
I get what it was going for. Like I said, it's clearly trying to do a thing that other movies, crucially other movies that came out before it, did successfully and failing. But in that failing, it feels like it was made for a brain rot generation. The first half of this movie, and I would argue large parts of the second half, feel like they were made by someone whose attention span is fully cooked. And for a movie that is supposed to be tense and like a slow burn cat and mouse game between, these 3 principal people, the 2 guys on the ends with Jack Nicholson as the focal point, really. It's just such a clash with what the tone of the movie is trying to be that it just kept fully yanking me out of the film.
It would also keep interspersing scenes that did not matter. Not just that they were not critical to the plot, I don't mind those, but they didn't build or establish character that wasn't already established. It was just sort of a dumb fucking thing they wanted to do, and for some reason they chopped it up like cucumber and inserted it in between the sad little clumps of meat that was the rest of the plot going on.
I'm so upset. I'm so upset about it. I genuinely am. I wanted to like this movie a lot.
I wanted to at least admire this film. I didn't. Now, I'm not going to say there weren't moments where I was bought in. There were a couple of moments of tension. Honestly, ironically, and not really ironic, I guess, but as we're saying, when the actors have enough space to sit in a scene and act against each other, that's when the movie does shine.
That's what I'm talking about. If they just let this movie breathe, I feel like it would have been a lot better. You don't have to change much. Just stop it. Just take your hand away from the fucking change scene iMovie button. Just stop.
I also didn't like a lot of the dialogue. It wasn't very creative, even if it was realistic about the way people in this part of the world, in this industry, talk. This is one of those situations here, like a car suddenly exploding even though its gas tank has not been hit, where you need to punch up the dialogue for the movie and ignore the realism. Fully half of this movie's dialogue is "suck my dick, motherfucker."
Racial slur, racial slur,
Sure,
racial slur.
Yeah, you're gay. And it's just any scene with more than one cop in it is just that being traded back and forth. And like, okay, for a bit, for Mark Wahlberg's character especially, 1000%, that's fantastic.
Yeah, actually, for Mark Wahlberg's character, it makes sense and pays off in a wonderful way in the movie for this dude to come across like an idiot palooka who's just this attack dog that Martin Sheen's character has on a leash. I want that because then it pays off at the end of the film. I like that. But literally every single adult male in this movie talks like the most insecure man baby possible. I don't know how to explain it better than that without literally just beginning to spout racial slurs.
The first hour and 20 minutes of this film is just an extended dick measuring contest that the principal characters refuse to get in a room and take their pants off about because it would have been over a lot faster.
Gentlemen, yes, please just whip them out, get the rulers, and can we please move on with our lives?
Yeah, it dragged. I've never heard swear words drag before. This is not
like me a fuck. We're not prudes.
This is not me coming from some sort of high tower.
Yeah, if you've listened to this podcast, we say fuck, shit, motherfucker. We say these things. These no words are not a problem. It's that you use them artlessly like a cudgel.
Not even like a cudgel, like a child playing with matches. It's a little flash and then it's over with.
Like, come on, man.
You want to talk about people who swear a lot? There were two films that were in my head a lot while watching this. Well, one is a director, and that's Quentin Tarantino. I haven't watched a lot of his newer stuff. I just kind of fell out. But his older stuff, the characters have charisma. The characters, not the actors. And the dialogue is punchy. People are very creative with their...
And do people speak a little bit more eloquently than they would in real life, given the kind of people they are and the situation they're in? Yeah, they do. You know why? It's a fucking movie, dum-dum. Why are they doing that? Why can we see what's happening in the dark? Where's all the light coming from? Same place as the music, asshole. Like, I want to have fun. I want to be enjoying my experience. If I wanted to talk to some dumb asshole who just makes jokes about how I like to suck dick all the time, trust me, I could get that experience a lot easier than going to a movie.
On account of how famous you are for loving to suck dick all the time? See, I just came up with that off the top of my head, and it was better. It was better than most of the dialogue in this film. I'm not saying there weren't good lines.
Most of them come from Jack Nicholson.
And even then, they're really weird. But the other film I had in my head was The Devil's Rejects. I recently rewatched it. It was a film from my teenage years, early 20s, that I really enjoyed. It was by a guy I really admired. It was a continuation of a story I thought was really fun. I would not call that movie high art until I watched this, and I'm aware that people call this high art, and I'm sorry, it's a better film. It's a better film covering a similar premise.
Honestly, it's a great example because clearly the movie wants you to think of Matt Damon's character. I don't remember the names of any of these dumb motherfuckers.
I didn't until like the last half hour remember the names of anyone. When Leonardo DiCaprio's character's name became a plot point, I could not keep track of who was who. But Matt Damon's character is clearly supposed to be superficially charming, but a fucking dweebus. A smug snake, I think, is the trope term, as it were. I don't think he's a snake, though.
No, he's supposed to be someone who...
He's an uncharitable parody of Fred from Scooby-Doo.
Wow, but like, if Fred from Scooby-Doo was also sexist, racist, and a homophobe.
Yes. Look, it's an uncharitable. Maybe it's the one from Velma. I don't know.
That's true. And I get that. Leonardo DiCaprio's character is clearly supposed to be, a brooding, struggling anti-hero who is more genuinely charming, but has a lot of problems. Like, I get that's what they're going for. They don't succeed on either venture. Both of these guys just come across like weird assholes.
I will say I had more sympathy for Leonardo DiCaprio's character. I think they pulled off his story probably the best out of any character. His arc, his growth.
That's good. He's kind of if this movie has a main character, it's Leo.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But it just none of that came across. And I don't hate Matt Damon. I'm starting to. I like Leonardo DiCaprio as an actor. I think he does a lot of good performances. I certainly don't dislike Jack Nicholson. You know, he's not one of my favorites or anything, but
it's a difference between the actors being charming people and the characters, like you mentioned. Right. The people in The Devil's Rejects are objectively worse than any of the people in this movie.
They're like Z-grade actors.
I'm sorry. The characters. They're worse people.
Oh, yeah.
They're mass murdering psychopaths, and yet they come across as more friendly, charming, and fun to be around than any human on screen for 2.5 hours during The Departed.
If there is nothing else to win you over about the cast of The Devil's Rejects compared to The Departed, there is no Tutti fucking Fruity scene in The Departed.
Yeah, there is.
There is nothing that makes them human.
They are very human, but only in ways that make them worse.
I would also like to criticize the female main character in this film, Dr. Madeline Madden, as played by Vera Farmiga. I don't know this person. This is one of the meanest strawmans I've seen in a long time for psychiatrists.
Yeah, I don't think that Martin Scorsese, and it's specifically Martin Scorsese, because in the Chinese movie, this is two different characters. He inserted all the worst parts of this woman. I don't think he likes psychiatrists very much.
She's a terrible psychiatrist.
And kind of a shitty person.
Sure, but so's the rest of the cast, so I can't hold that against her too much. Awful psychiatrist. Terrible decision making. It's just so... It feels like somebody barking an unpopular opinion they would like to be real, and a bunch of other people responding with their own barks of, I too would like that to be real. This is just not a well-made film. The number of songs that just stop abruptly.
And again, it's clearly an intentional move. I get what they were going for with stopping those songs abruptly. It's meant to be jarring. It's meant to be like, pulling you back down into the reality of this shitty situation when the music suddenly cuts off and you were kind of finally having a decent enough time because this song's pretty good, even if you won't stop fucking playing it.
Gimme Shelter is legitimately one of my favorite Rolling Stones songs. It drives me so nuts that this movie used it so poorly. You can keep Shipping Up to Boston. I don't care that much about that song.
What about that weird cover of Comfortably Numb? How are you feeling about that one? Why did you use a cover there?
Why did you use that cover there? It was so weird. It was so weird, and it wasn't sexy. But yeah, the point you were getting to, these sudden stops don't actually do the thing you're trying to get them to do.
No, they just pull you out of the movie.
Yeah, it just feels weird. Speaking of things feeling weird, this is a small thing. This is a nitpick, but you know what? I nitpick every other fucking movie we watch on this show, so I'm gonna nitpick this one too. There's a scene where Jack Nicholson is eating something. I feel like it's a big shrimp he dipped in cheese, but I don't actually know what it was. And he speaks a line with a mouthful of shrimp that is so clumsily ADR'd. Clear speaking Jack Nicholson speaking his line with a whole fucking ass prawn in his gullet.
I almost feel bad for Jack Nicholson because who knows how many times he had to do that scene.
Who knows?
There's a famous story about about another Martin Scorsese movie about how Leonardo DiCaprio ended up vomiting into a bucket because he had to eat the same piece of yellowtail 30 times.
It makes me want to rewatch Gangs of New York to make sure that I'm not crazy, that film wasn't bad and I was just young and impressionable.
Yeah, Again, it's not like we are ourselves smug, elitist, high art lovers who think this movie is beneath us. We heaped praise on a Minecraft movie, you guys. It's not like the bar is high. You just have to aim. You have to hit what you're aiming for.
I managed to have a lot of fun with The Happening, an objectively worse made film. But it's like when you put so much effort into something that if it comes out not as good as middle of the road, it's still so much worse than something you barely put any effort into that came out not quite as good as middle of the road.
There's a saying, there's a sort of a hacky old saying, shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. When it comes to making movies, if you can't hit the fucking moon, aim lower, because you end up hurtling through the blankness of space for eternity.
If you're Martin Scorsese, you should be able to hit that moon. With that pedigree, you should be able to hit that moon. With these actors.
Even putting aside the Martin Scorsese, a man I am increasingly vindicated about disregarding the opinion of. Putting aside him, if you just took this cast and gave them a halfway decent script and got the fuck out of their way, you'd have a great movie. Everything that's shitty about this movie is things getting in the actor's way. It's weird jump cuts that make no sense. It's weird uses of songs that pull you out of the movie. It's fucking strange decisions in how you frame and light a scene. It's all shit getting in the actor's way. And every time this movie excels, every part of this movie that is great, and there are great parts, is two people in a room talking to each other, and it sings because you stopped being an asshole in love with yourself and your own legend for 5 fucking minutes.